Good day. Thank you for tuning into this 2017 General Election Candidate Forum for Lacey City Council Position 7. The forum is presented by the League of Women Voters of Thurston County and TC Media. The League is a nonprofit organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in their government. The League neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties. We are nonpartisan. The League registers new voters, studies issues, and advocates for its positions with governing bodies. Despite its name, the League is open to both men and women of age 16 and up. I'm Allison Brooks from the League, and I'll be moderating this forum. The candidates for Lacey City Council Position 7 are Ken Balsley and Carolyn Cox. For this forum, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Then I'll ask them questions in alternating order. The person first asked the questions will have 2 minutes for a response, followed by 1 minute from the other candidate. There will be 1 minute for closing statements at the end. We will begin with opening statements from the candidates, beginning with Ken Balsley.
Well, thank you, Allison. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to the voters of Thurston County, and I appreciate everything that the League does. Well, I've been an advocate for Lacey for over 30 years. I've been involved in almost every aspect of the community for a long time. I'm the currently chairman of the Parks Board. I'm a former chair of the Lacey Historic Commission. In fact, I was named the Lacey Historian of the Year in 2015. So I've been involved in Lacey a long time. I've been an advocate for them. But there's a difference between being an advocate and actually getting things done, because an advocate can only sit and throw rocks at the tent. Sometimes you got to stop throwing the rocks, you got to get inside the tent, you got to sit down at the table, and you got to start helping make decisions that take Lacey into the future. And I think Lacey is a good community. I love Lacey a lot. I've lived there for 40-some years. It's a place that I've raised kids and raising grandkids now. And I just think that it's time that we actually take a position on some issues that the Lacey voters care about. And so I'm ready to get into the tent, sit down at the table, and talk with the people and see if we can't make Lacey a better community. I always thought Lacey as a 21st century community. It's a 21st century city, and it isn't like some of our adjacent cities that have been around a long time. Lacey has unique aspects that people don't even realize. And having been involved in the community for 3 decades, I understand Lacey. I understand it very well. And I'm very passionate about my love for Lacey, and my reason for running is because it's time to turn from being an advocate to being a person of action. And so I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ken. Carolyn, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Allison. I'm Carolyn Cox, and I've been a resident of Lacey for about 16 years. I'm currently chair of the Lacey Planning Commission, and from that perch, you end up doing a lot of looking into the future. Lacey has opportunities and challenges ahead of us. Part of my objective as a candidate, and if I'm elected to the council, will be to work on issues that improve our quality of life and protect the environment as our city grows. We're looking at 30,000 new residents in the next 2 decades. That's a lot of new faces in Lacey, and there's lots of things that we have to consider about that. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to play? Where are they going to work? And how are they going to get around? One of the toughest things about life in Lacey right now is traffic congestion. I just can't, emphasize that enough. Sometimes you have to sit through 5 light cycles to get onto I-5. College Street traffic is kind of a nightmare. People trying to pull out of their homes and make a left turn can sit there for quite a long time to do that. So one of the most critical issues I want to work on is improving transit service, making it convenient, affordable for people so they have other options. I'm also working on a number of other issues which we'll get into a little later in the conversation. For now, I'd just like to leave it with, it's been a great opportunity for me as a candidate to get to know lots of new faces in Lacey, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you, Carolyn. And we'll go into our first question. And since we were talking about traffic, that fits with our very first question. Ken, you'll have the first question. You'll have 2 minutes for a response. How do you propose to deal with the increase in traffic problems, the need for services, and still balance the budget?
Well, that's a good question. One of the things that we've discovered about Lacey is that a large part of the growth in the community is coming north of I-5. Out in the Hawks Prairie area, there's a significant number of new residents, probably as many as 5,000 new residents out north of I-5, and there's no transit system to them. And so that's one of the things that we need to look at is extending transit not only to those people north of I-5, but also out onto the Hawks Prairie area. And people say, well, that's expensive, you can't do it. Well, I think part of it is that the Intercity Transit Board has to set different priorities. Right now, I think that they're more centered on providing transportation in Olympia than they are out in Lacey. And Lacey's larger than Olympia. More people live in Lacey than live in Olympia. So we need to reset priorities, number one. Number two, the city has had a plan on the boards for 9 years now to improve College Street. And they haven't been able to do it because of financial constraints. So now this next summer, they're going to start construction of a roundabout at 22nd Avenue and College Street. I'm not sure they thought that thing all the way through. When I was doorbelling on that area and talking to people, they're really concerned about the construction of a roundabout at 22nd Avenue as backing up traffic into Mountain View Elementary School. I've talked to the schools, I've talked to the city, and they don't really seem that they have a plan ready to help with that traffic backup on 22nd. And I'm not even sure that entire College Street plan is worthwhile. I don't think that's economically feasible. We need to look at alternatives. And I'm not sure exactly what those alternatives are, but we need to look at alternatives. People suggested to me that we make College Street one way and Railroad Road one way. I don't know that works, but the idea is that we need to stop doing the old thinking that you can build your way out of traffic jams. And I think we need to start looking at new ways that we can get things done in Lacey.
Thank you, Ken. Carolyn, you have 1 minute for a response.
Thank you. I think sometimes as Ken was saying, sometimes we tend to think in a box, and there are other things besides a 40-passenger bus for getting people around. I recently was in the Jubilee area, and one of the constant things you hear from people in Jubilee is, why is it that we pay taxes for transit service and we have no transit coming to us, not even the dial-a-lift bus for people with physical incapacity and needs for that? Well, that's not very fair, and I think there may be some talk about a Boston Tea Party, but I think they have a good point. Lacey is not getting its fair share of transit for the money that it pays in there. If I'm elected to council, I do want to seek the appointment to the Intercity Transit Board. I know a number of those people, and I think I can be an effective advocate for Lacey residents. In the meantime, because buses are very expensive, I would advocate looking for smaller vehicles to perhaps make runs out Marvin Road to the north and offer at least some services to the businesses and residential neighborhoods in that part of the city.
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, our second question. And Carolyn, you'll get to answer the second question first, and you'll have 2 minutes. Here we go. What are your thoughts on developers sharing costs of new public facilities, including schools, to serve their developments?
Well, my first response to that is that I think we're all responsible for determining the level of services that we want in our community and figuring out how we pay for that. Developers do get charged, and there are policies in place. For example, a new development going in now is required to lay sewer lines, so right up to the street from the house, so that if somebody, once sewer lines go in from the city, they're right there ready to hook up. Developers also, with new developments that are not contiguous to city limits or inside city limits, can create strains both on streets and on schools and on other services, water, sewer. And so I do think that that is a cost that developers need to share in. Luckily for developers, they can pass those costs generally along to the people who buy the buildings they develop, whether it's commercial or residential. I think I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you, Carolyn. Ken, you have 1 minute for response, and if you need me to repeat the question, I'm happy to do it.
I do not need the question repeated. Thank you very much. We've had a policy in Lacey for a long time that growth should pay for itself, that growth should pay for growth. And developers and people who build houses and commercial structures pay a significant amount of money, not only to the school district, but to the city for parks and for transportation. Sometimes I'm sure whether or not that money goes where it's supposed to go, but they already pay a significant amount of money. And there's no doubt that growth is impacting everything. It impacts the traffic, it impacts schools, and that thing. We really need to take a look at that and decide where that money that comes into the city coffers goes after it comes into the city coffers. Carolyn said they're already required to do certain things like extend sewers, but I think that we really need to make sure that the money that the developers are paying for impact of their development actually goes to help ameliorate some of the impacts on development.
Thank you, Ken. And that's a good segue to our next question. And Ken, you get the next question. You'll have 2 minutes. And that is, what is your position on the city's future septic to sewer conversion plan?
That's a question that's perplexed people who have worked on the issues for decades. We have a lot of people out in Lacey who are on septic systems. But recently, LOT, which runs the sewer system, did a major study on the impact of this recycled water. They take their reclaimed water and put it back into the ground, and it goes back down into the ground, into the drinking water, actually. And so the results of that study showed that there are 17 chemicals that go back into the water that are not stopped in the process. But they also found at the same time while they're doing that study, they went out and they also put monitoring stations in areas where nothing but septic systems exist. And what they found in that study was that the septic systems put the same amount of chemicals in the ground, not more, not less. If your septic system is working properly, if septic systems are working properly, they are no more of an impact onto the groundwater than the reclaimed water that LOT is putting back into the system. Now, there are some septic systems that are failing, and we need to find those septic systems, and we need to provide the incentive for people to hook up to sewers if the sewers are in the area. But I'm just trying to emphasize one more time that the reclaimed water that LOT puts back into the drinking water out in Lacey is no more dangerous, is as dangerous as the septic systems. The septic systems are no more dangerous than what LOT puts in. So I don't know that forcing people to connect to LOT is going to make any difference when it comes to the groundwater and our drinking water. Because basically what the study has found is that it's just about the same amount of chemicals. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Ken. And Carolyn, you have 1 minute for a response.
I see that a little bit differently. I think septic systems can be bad for the environment, and not just failing ones. Septic systems actually are sand filtration of human waste that eventually finds its way down into the aquifers that provide our drinking water, because our water systems are served by wells. The biggest contributor to some of the pollution is runoff from fertilized lawns, from parking lots, and that sort of thing. But failing septic tanks also contribute to the pollution of our lakes and streams and our inability to harvest shellfish in South Sound. I advocate a tougher stance on moving people off septic tanks onto the city sewer service, in setting high priority areas where the environmental degradation threat is the highest. And I want to create a system to help people get there so that the financial impact is not too hard on them.
Thank you, Carolyn. And our next question is, how would you propose to solve the homeless problem? Carolyn, you have 2 minutes for a response.
Okay. I like to say that Lacey has a hidden homeless problem because it's not as obvious as it is in Olympia. But the truth is, you see more and more people out on the streets. We talk to our school districts and we see that there are hundreds of children who are homeless. And I believe our community needs to join hands with Olympia and with Tumwater, and we need to bring along Thurston County to address this collectively. We need a comprehensive set of services to solve this problem. It's not going to get easier. Housing prices for rentals are soaring even faster than private home rates are in this county, and people are being priced out of the market. The most services for people without homes are concentrated in Olympia, but I don't believe we should just look to Olympia and say it's your problem. Instead, I favor a model like the Thurston Thrives Health Program, which delivers a set of, has different groups looking at solutions for health care from birth to elderly. If we could come up with centers in the 3 cities and in perhaps Yelm and the Rainier-Tenino area that would be one-stop shops for people needing temporary shelter, needing medical care, needing job counseling training, placement assistance, perhaps daycare assistance, any number of things, I think we would go a long way into solving that problem. It's actually less expensive to do an approach like this, because if you price what one individual with chronic health issues or problems with the law or what have you, it actually costs way more to jail or treat that individual in emergency rooms than it does to provide them with services.
Thank you, Carolyn. Ken, you have 1 minute for a response on the homeless problem.
Homeless problem is one of those problems that you really feel bad about. It's something that's been with society, I think, forever. But here we have 2 different types of homelessness. We have the temporary homeless. Those are people that have lost their jobs and aren't able to pay. People have been kicked out of their homes, domestic abuse. Those are what I call the temporary homeless. And there are organizations and institutions that exist to help them, and they've been doing a fairly good job of it, getting people back into their homes, the people who are temporarily homeless. The other one, though, are the chronic homeless. These are the people on drugs, on alcohol, people who have mental health problems. And those are the ones that you see on the streets for the most part. Those are the ones that people seem to feel are causing the problems. And what we really need to there is homeless is not the problem with that. It's an issue of health care, mental health facilities, people that help people get off drugs. We need to put more money into the health care system, and I really feel sorry for the state of Washington and the mental health issues that we have.
Thank you, Ken. And so, Ken, you'll get our final question here, at least to start. You'll have 2 minutes to answer. And it is, what is your position on the plastic bag ban?
The plastic bag ban is one of those things that just actually separated the city of Lacey into 2 camps. Those that wanted the plastic bag ban and those that didn't. And it was a major problem. It's still an issue. People still talk about it. Recently, somebody of mine went out to Yelm and came back with plastic bags and just said, I got plastic bags, I got plastic bags. The point being that the plastic bag ban was one of those things that is a feel-good. It does absolutely nothing to protect the environment. It's just something that feels good to make people think they're doing something. There is a real problem in the environment with plastic. There's no doubt about that. But the plastic bag ban was just one of those feel-good things. Now, my position on it. I opposed the plastic bag ban at the very beginning because I thought that should be voted on by the people of Lacey. I still think that if you want to do anything, you should ask the people their opinion and vote on it. But we've had it now for 2 years. I've gotten used to it. I've gotten used to not getting plastic bags. I take my bags to the store, out of the car to the store, just like everybody else does. I've gotten used to it. I'm not ready to go back to plastic bags. But that doesn't mean that it was right and that we shouldn't relook at the issue. I think the people of Lacey should continue to have an opportunity to have their say at the ballot box on the plastic bag ban. But like I say, I've gotten used to it, and it doesn't bother me anymore.
Okay, well, thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Allison.
Carolyn, you have 1 minute for response on the plastic bag ban.
Thank you. I'm an enthusiastic supporter of the bag ban, and I think that the public had ample opportunity to comment. Lacey worked with Thurston County, Olympia, and Tumwater. This issue was widely debated in a number of settings, and people had ample opportunity to comment on it. One of my favorite memories is at a City Council on the Road meeting. The plastic ban question was being discussed once more, and a group of residents from Panorama walked in a door in the back of the room, each of them carrying their reusable shopping bags. They didn't say a word, but they made a very effective point. Plastic bags are made from petroleum products. Plastic bags create litter that's going to sit there for ages or will molder in landfills. Why not just tuck in your reusable bag or pay a nickel and get a paper bag at the store?
Thank you, Carolyn. Okay, well now it brings us to our close. You each have 1 minute for closing comments, and Ken, you'll get to go first with 1 minute, and Carolyn, you'll get the last 1 minute. Ken.
Carolyn's going to get the last say.
Not quite. Carolyn gets the last say. Go on, Ken.
I've loved Lacey for a long time. I probably love Lacey more than anybody else in the community. That doesn't mean they don't care about the community, but I have been so involved in that thing up to my neck into Lacey activities that it just seems to me that it's time for me to ask you for your vote. I've been endorsed by a lot of people. I've been endorsed by people all over the city and all over the county, a lot of elected officials. I've even been endorsed by my family. My family loves me. You know, they think I'm a great person. But the only endorsement that really counts is you, the voter. You're the one that counts. If you're going to make a decision on that, I need you to take a look at my record and what I stand for, and you can go to my webpage, Ken Balsley for Lacey City Council, and see what that is. And I ask for your vote, and I really sincerely would like to have your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Carolyn, 1 minute for closing comments.
Thank you. My work on the City Planning Commission for the last 3.5 years has put me in very close proximity to the City Council. We hold the city's public hearings. We develop the city's 20-year roadmap. We figure out how we're going to grow, how we're going to serve our new residents, how we're going to keep up with maintenance, even down to what trees are going to be on which streets. There's a lot of work to that. That has been wonderful training for me, and I feel like it has prepared me to just step right in without a whole lot of other training and be an effective member of the City Council. This campaign really, though, is not about me. It's about you at home. I want to represent you, and I want you to know that one thing I will always do is listen to you and never for a minute forget who I'm representing.
Thank you for participating in the League of Women Voters General Election Forum for Lacey City Council Position 7. We encourage viewers to vote in the general election November 7th, 2017. The League particularly thanks TC Media for their ongoing support and assistance. And thank you again to Ken Malsley and Carolyn Cox. We appreciate you being here, and thank you for joining us.